Welcome to Indie Music Explorer. I'm Dan.
I'm Jack.
And we're the Barton
Brothers.
We are Denver-based songwriters and performers committed to uncovering the tricks and tactics that independent artists are using to succeed in the new music business.
We sit down with creative people of all types to get their insights, and we'll share our own personal thoughts and experiences along the way.
So enjoy the episode. Hello out there, friends. Dan here, and we are back with our first episode of 2019, and with that brings a lot of changes. Jack and I have officially moved back to Colorado, where we are currently camping out in Fort Collins to make a record and get reestablished while we look for places to live in Denver. It's bittersweet to leave Boston, and today's guest is one reason why. Tim Perry came by the studio in Boston to grace us with his charisma before we left town. Now, I met Tim through a music marketing group hosted by Cheryl B. Engelhart, and we hit it off because we were both based in the Boston area and because of his infectious energy, and honestly, because the dude books so many gigs that he just started passing me the dates that he had double booked. I referred him to the street performing program at Faneuil Hall to try and return the favor. Tim excels mostly, though, at booking private events, parties, weddings, etc. And he had actually just come to see us from a gig at a nursing home. And we wanted to sit down and discuss his strategy and his mindset. It turns out a lot of that comes from his background as a business owner, as you will hear, and his unromantic, no-nonsense approach to earning a living. Check him out at timperryrocks.com and enjoy the wide-ranging, always meandering mind of Tim Perry. Talk to you soon. Nice. What was it?
Nursing home.
Hell
No way.
it was a nursing
That's
home.
the dream.
Yeah, and actually, what I'm in the process of doing right now is slowly creeping up my fees at the nursing homes.
Nice.
How are they taking that?
They don't even care.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Did you underprice yourself initially then, you think?
No, I was right on.
Yeah.
I was right on with what everyone else was charging because I asked around.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then my goal was I'm not going to do this for this price, which isn't a bad price,
Right.
but I like
Sometimes you
maximizing
got to
my
sell
time.
yourself up, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not even a matter of selling yourself up as much as I don't want to work 100 hours a week. So
Yeah.
it's going to be this much.
Right.
How are the nursing home gigs? Do you update your set list for them, I'm assuming?
It's funny you say that. Because a lot of times you don't have to because they don't really remember.
Right.
You.
Yeah.
I do update it for myself. And it's one of those things that's like, if you go there and you just play some of the old songs that they really enjoy, then you're
golden.
yeah.
Nice. And so I'm impressed that you've continued doing that because it seems like you've gotten really, really busy with other private stuff.
Yeah.
Really
yeah,
good.
yeah, definitely. And what I'm kind of finding, and I don't know how else to put this, I'm lazy. I hate, I've done the big business thing. I've had several successful businesses where I'm working a lot and making tons of money, and that's wonderful, but I had no life. And I'm kind of done working so hard for stuff. And what I'm learning, especially recently, because I've really been trying to drill it into my brain, is, the single most thing that made my last thing successful, and not that I'm some, I'm not Richard Branson or Elon Musk or something, I'm just Tim, but the things that have made my last venture successful is just good thinking. Just thinking, okay, what do I really want out of this? And things just kind of show up along the way. And you got to have a little bit of faith that things will show up along the way, and not in a real fluffy kind of, if you just think about it, it'll happen. Because you can sit around and think all day. It may or may not happen.
Manifest everything.
Yeah. You
Right.
I don't think that's necessarily the way, because a lot of people do it wrong. But I think I don't know. I think if you really want something, it'll happen and it'll show up. And as far as private gigs go and things like that, it's like any business. This is something I always have to remind myself of. Is like, just because you start something and you love it doesn't mean it's gonna instantly be a success. Like any famous person, or like anyone who's on the radar, it takes time. I mean, it takes some effort. It takes some time.
It takes 10 years to make an overnight success, right?
I think
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that's important to remember, because I think you just see a lot of glamorized stories and you kind of assume like, they just had that hit and there it was. They're ready.
That's it. No, that's it. I mean, that's just like, if you take the time and look at my Facebook, you'd be like, man, Tim is like living the life. He's traveling. He's all this stuff. But like, I mean, you don't see my day to day, while I was doing some of those things where I'm like, oh man,
Really in the beginning.
yeah, like I hope this works.
Yeah.
Like I just put, a few grand into this. I hope this works. Like you don't see that worry on my face.
Yeah, so, well, it's funny that you, like, I've heard you characterize yourself as lazy before, which is an interesting way to think about it, because, you're busier than I am right now. You're, like, cooking it. So, obviously, what is it? I think, isn't it like Bill Gates that says he likes to hire lazy people because they, like, find the easiest way to figure something out,
Right.
like the shortcuts.
And that's it.
So, there must be something to that.
There is something to that. And like, when I say lazy, like, and please, like, if you got, I mean, you know me, you don't really know me that well though. Like, I'm not arrogant by any stretch of the imagination. Well, maybe I'll probably come across. You'll probably edit this where I sound really arrogant. You'll be like,
Look at all
yeah,
this
Tim
sound
was
guy's
cool,
a
but like,
real
he's
asshole.
super arrogant. No, but like, I think like, yeah, I mean, it's like, I'm effective. I am effective. I know I am. Like, I've coached people before. I'm coaching someone now, like through a huge deal. Like, I know my stuff, and it's like this. It's like, all right, what's the easiest way to point A to point B? Because I think what ends up happening is, people either have no idea how to do things, not because I don't know how to do everything. However, what I do know how to do, dude, pick up the phone. Like, anytime. Actually, I was just talking to someone today. They had a business idea that they were running by me, and just pick up the phone and call the person who's doing the thing you want to do and say, hey, what are you doing that's effective? And I mean, 9 times out of 10, they'll help you. I mean, there are people who are real protective of their secret,
trade
their
secrets,
secrets,
yeah.
quote unquote. But I mean, they're not secrets. I find that most people who are really killing it are usually very generous with their knowledge.
Right. Well, because they know that nothing's really a secret and that you won't put it into action, but they have. So, like,
Exactly.
none of this is like, Fort Knox. It's
No,
like,
totally.
I've done it and you won't.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And honestly, I mean, not to sound like a hippie, but I mean, like, we're all in this together. Like, we all want to be happy.
Yeah.
And we all want to be successful. And honestly, like, you do get back what you put into life. And so I honestly do think, like, if you're going to help someone, when the time is right and you need help, someone's going to help you.
Right.
If you ask or whatever, or it just shows up. And so I guess, like, my whole thing is like, yeah, maximum minimum, like minimum time and effort put into something for maximum benefit. And that takes patience. That takes guts. Like, not like, believe me, there's a lot of things I'm afraid of, but like a gut of like, ugh, I got to get through this, if that makes sense. Like,
Willingness to power through something uncomfortable.
exactly, like this willingness to be uncomfortable, I guess is the way to put it. And it's not. I mean, some days I'm like, man, I just want to pull the shades, and I'm like sitting at home watching like Walker Texas Ranger, like something stupid, just wasting my time, because I'm procrastinating because I don't know how something's gonna go, and I'm in that place of not busy enough to kind of put it to the wayside,
Right.
and not enough happening with the thing
Right.
to feel good about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, cool. So, like, let's like loop on back to where we just ended up and start at the beginning. Today on Indie Music Explorer, we are talking to Tim Perry, who is a friend of ours that I met through a course that we were taking together. And so I guess we can kind of start at the beginning, because music is your full-time thing right now.
Right now, yes.
But it wasn't-
I do some business consulting
Okay.
with people, so that's like another thing. But I mean, it's minimal. Music is my moneymaker right now.
Nice. Well, but it wasn't. But it wasn't always that way.
No.
So, like, why don't you kind of introduce the crowd to yourself and like, where'd you come from and what are you up to right now?
Okay. All right. Sounds good. All right. I'm really trying to work on not being long-winded. So, I'm actually originally from Boston, from Dorchester. I grew up on Cape Cod. Let me see. I lived in Boston in my 20s in the North End. I started a business when I was around like 18, I think was when I really started going full force. But I always had some things on the side. But I honestly haven't really worked for someone since I was 16. So I've always had kind of my own business. And I mean, that's just kind of how it's gone. So I had a window cleaning, solar panel cleaning company. I built it up to this huge thing. We were all over New England making tons of money.
Was that something you had a genuine interest in, or how did you actually like get into that?
No, I kind of stumbled into it. And I mean, I liked it because of the money. Like, actually, if you need some cash, window cleaning is phenomenal. Solar panel cleaning is even more phenomenal, but it's a little bit more involved. But I mean, window cleaning, I mean, literally, I mean, I was making, and I'm not kidding. I would make, when I first started, I would make $500 to $1,000 a day, like back in the 90s. And then when I just love, I don't even care. Like, you can judge me. Like, I love talking about money because no one talks about money. Everyone's so shy about it.
No judgment.
Okay, perfect.
I think it's honestly, it's smart because like the more upfront we are about like what we're getting paid is like
Exactly.
people need to know
Exactly.
like, their worth.
And actually, one thing I want to touch on with your audience, and we'll touch on it later, because I want to make a point if I can. And don't be scared. It's a good point that I think it's going to help.
No worries.
But like and then like when I really started getting big, like I had 12 employees and I had several subcontractors. So I mean, like we were going 24 hours all over New England. And I mean, like there were weeks like I was making like 20 grand in a week. And I mean, those days are gone. I'm not doing that now. I want to be doing that now, but I'm not right now.
So the nursing home business.
Right.
Yeah. No, you're not. You will not. You're not going to make 20 grand a week in nursing homes. At least right now. Who knows? Maybe that industry will change. But I mean, don't get me wrong. There was a lot that went into that. I mean, I had a whole infrastructure. It was a big deal, and it took years to build. So I did that for a long time, and you would think, "Oh man, you're making all this money. You must be happy."
Right.
I wasn't. Like it was like it just became a grind. It was like, okay, how do we push this forward? How do we push this thing? And I had mentors. I had consultants I would hire. So I mean, I really got like great business insight. And I was just kind of done, and I literally like like I mean I'm just gonna be honest with you, like I was depressed like towards the end of my business, like or the end of me having it. I just was just kind of done. I was ready to do something else, and I mean I'd get up at like noon every day because I could. I mean I had things in place where people would go to work, and I didn't really have to do a whole lot in the business. Like I set it up really well, so it was pretty hands off. But it was kind of like, all right, now what? Like I was really pretty unfulfilled in it, and honestly,
what's the end game besides getting bigger? At a certain point, it's just
exactly. And I mean, it's just my wife and I. It's not like we have kids. I mean, we have dogs that we treat better than kids, but like, yeah, it was kind of like, yeah, what is even the point of this? Like, okay, I'm making all this money. That's great. But I mean, the reality was, like, I was making a ton of money. I was spending even more because I was unhappy. And I mean, I was like, I don't even know where. I'm ashamed to say, like my biggest year, I made over 250 grand a year, like that year, and I think I spent like 350 grand. And I don't even know. It's not like we were like living phenomenally.
Right.
Like, I mean, it was. I don't even.
I'm
ashamed to say, like, I don't know where the money went.
Yeah.
You know, like it was just kind of like, oh, okay, I'll just pay this, whatever. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Right.
Let's go out to eat. Let's go blah, 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 blah. Like just dumb stuff. I don't even know how the heck. Like when I finally like sat down and did the math, I was like, wow, I'm ashamed of myself.
Right.
Like what did I do? Like I completely squandered something.
Right.
That
the
When you're
danger of
depressed
it.
and you know that the money is probably there. You figure
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, long story short, sold it, got a buyer, sold it, and then we took almost 5 years off. We have an RV. We bought it to like go to the beach, and we had our house on the Cape, and we were like, Nicole was like, why don't we use my wife Nicole was like, why don't we use our RV? Like it's just sitting there. Like, why don't we go across country and kind of see what we want to do next? So we took our RV. It ended up being like we were on the road for like a year and a half. We went all over. We took the dogs with us. You name it, we've been there. And then, we were kind of like, okay, well, what are we doing? We decided to come back to Massachusetts, but more where my wife is from, Western Massachusetts. And then I got the business back again recently. And I ran it for literally like a week. And then I found another buyer and I sold it again.
Wow. Did you have a moment where you decided that you were going to switch to music, or was it a gradual transition?
Okay, yeah.
How long have you been playing
so
music? When did that come back around?
Yeah, so this is a podcast about music, not window cleaning. So,
Window cleaners explorers.
yeah.
I'll be honest, you sold me on window cleaning pretty well.
Yeah.
I'm like, $2,000 a week, maybe I should clean some windows.
Yeah, no, if you ever decide, I'm telling you, it's phenomenal. I'll help you blow it up. But yeah, so music, I had been playing since I was like, I don't know, like 14 years old, whatever. And I was lucky enough around that time I was homeschooled for a little bit because I cut my thumb really bad. I have a scar from it. And the school basically said, we don't want you to come to school. We recommend homeschooling because they were worried because I had this cast and it was like, if I fell on it, I was going to lose use of my thumb.
Oh my God.
And it was like, this was in let me see, I was 13 or 14 when this happened. So I don't know. This was like the 90s when everyone was lawsuit happy. And so they recommended I homeschool. So I homeschooled and I got into music, which allowed me as far as and sometimes I credit that to like being a little more entrepreneurial because I was like, this is awesome. Like I can kind of do what I want. And actually a lot of my friends followed suit, started homeschooling, like a lot of my really close friends who are also musicians. So I got to play a lot, like from, all my teenage years, played in bands. I was actually in a punk band and like we went all over New England. Like, I don't know, I think I was like 16 when that was like really big. I started recording on my own, like late teens, early 20s. I did like 5 albums as The Ultimate Fatty was my name. That's another story.
That's a podcast in and of itself.
And then I just always played, always recorded, like until now even. And I have like tons of songs I never released. Just kind of got busy with window cleaning and lost the time really. And so I mean, I've always had a real deep love for music, and it's like one of those things I always say, like, oh man, like when I'm playing somewhere, it's like, okay, cool, like I'm playing and they're giving me beers, like I would be doing this at home, like playing,
drinking beer and playing. Yeah,
exactly. Like I may as well get paid to do it, and there goes that efficiency of like, all right, this is effective then. Like I'm having fun, I'm getting paid, cool. And so I kind of decided, like I was actually in France. We were in Nice, France. I was playing a little bit with a couple of bands over there. I was actually playing drums in a jazz band, which is another podcast episode. And it was kind of like, oh man, kind of like reawoken that thing. And I always knew I wanted to like play again, but I didn't really know how I was going to do it. And I kept trying to fake myself out, like, oh, just call yourself a musician, you'll be a musician. And I was so insecure about it. And even, if I'm honest, even today, like I have a lot of respect for like what you guys do as Barton Brothers. Like I like that you guys like put your originals out there because I'm still a little nervous to do my original stuff. And like I feel like a little bit, okay, I mean the covers work. It's not my favorite thing to do. If I'm honest, it's not my favorite thing to do. But it's the lesser of the evils.
Right, and you found what works.
It's still fun.
Right. Yeah, it's a blast.
Still, I mean, literally, I mean, my worst day at a gig is still a good day.
You can still compare that to window cleaning anytime you want.
Yeah, exactly. It's still a good day. It's not like dealing with, these employees who are whatever.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Yeah. And so, anyway, I guess I really decided like a year ago, like, okay, this is what I'm doing. And so I started doing it, and it's been good. I'm really impatient, and I'm really hard on myself, and I'm really hard on like how I want a business to work.
We can't
relate to that at all.
So it's not where I want it to be, but it's good.
Yeah. You mentioned that you invested a fair amount of money into it at the beginning. If you had advice for people that are kind of starting out on somewhat of a budget on like where they should put their money first.
Okay, here's the deal. Quit wasting money on equipment. I see so many guys like, oh, I got this. You know what? If I just had this, $8,000 Gibson Les Paul, like then things would just no. Get the Epiphone for $125 just for now. And I would say invest your money in education for yourself. Because here's the deal. Dan, you play piano.
Yeah.
Jack, what do you play? You play piano as well. Okay, guess what? There's a 3-year-old on YouTube that is better than
for sure
than you will ever be.
Right.
Like there's a 2-year-old who blows me away in every way on the guitar and singing. And they're like 2 years old on YouTube.
Yeah. It's always discouraging. Yeah.
No, it's discouraging. And yes, be good at what you do. Absolutely. But if you want the edge on other musicians, this is what I find. And I'm sure you guys find the same thing. And this is like, a lot of musicians are hard to work with. Get good at business. Get good at what people like. Because here's the deal. If you show up on time and are really nice and really sensitive to what they need filled, because that's actually a lot. If you Google just Google the law of compensation. It's a law that's out there that's like been written about for thousands of years. And you'll see what the law of compensation is. And the law of compensation states that you're filling a need. There's a need for you. And so like right now I feel like with musicians, there's no lack of great musicians. There is some.
There's a glut of great musicians. God,
especially around here in Boston or like where I am in Western Massachusetts. I mean, there's famous people that live on my street, famous musicians that live on my street. And it's like, all right, how am I going to compete with these guys? I mean, obviously they're on a whole nother level, but, I meet people that go to Berkeley and stuff like that. And they're just like phenomenal musicians, will blow any of us out of the water.
And so you have to find a different edge.
And your edge should be, if you're good with people.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter how good of a musician they are. If you're decent, I mean, don't get me wrong. You gotta be decent. You gotta practice. You gotta give the people what they want. But if you're sensitive to what people want and how you word things, and I'll just drop a couple of books. I would say read Think and Grow Rich, and read How to Win Friends and Influence People. Those 2 books, I mean, have done phenomenal things for me. And actually, it's funny. I was just talking to someone today about Think and Grow Rich. I mean, just read those books, look into them, and even if they don't necessarily resonate with you, maybe like YouTube it, and you'll find someone.
I've had so many people recommend How to Win.
How to Win Friends and Influence People. Dale Carnegie. And so getting to my point, what should you spend money on? You should spend money on books, on coaching, on how to do business, on if it's something you really want to do. If you don't want to do the business of it, then I would say spend your money finding an agent. Spend your money finding someone who will do that for you. Spend your time and money doing that, or if you want to perform. If you want to be a phenomenal songwriter, I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
That's hard to.
I don't know if I'm the guy to talk to you about that. I mean, the thing off the top of my head though would be you have to wake up every day, and say what's my end game here? What do I want to accomplish? So I think you got to be real crystal clear. Like for me right now, my short game is I just want to play music and make some money because that's like the quickest cash. I mean, yeah, I could spend time on doing some, trying to get into commercials and things like that, which I would like to do eventually. But I mean, right now I got to pay the light bill. Mm-hmm. So like, what's the quickest way? Okay, I can play a wedding and make $1,200 or whatever, sometimes more.
In terms of shooting for live gigs like weddings and stuff, is there any way that you found that you can like short circuit the process of just getting people's attention and getting references, or what was your process of kind of getting those gigs going as often as you do? Okay,
so easiest way, I think, because I haven't experienced it yet, I think would be like an agent. From what I hear, that's like my current project is like agent. But honestly, I don't think I would have been there without getting the experience of like this guy's gonna pay me. I'm a little nervous.
Right,
You know,
yeah.
like kind of work. You know, I haven't been on stage in 10 years. Here I go. Honestly, I mean, there's so many great platforms like Gig Masters, Gig Salad. That's a phenomenal resource. Other thing too, just reaching out, make a spreadsheet, be a business mind about it. It's not really that fun. However, it'll serve you in the long run, like the long run being like a week from now. Just keep track of who you're reaching out to, and like restaurants, breweries, things like that. I mean, it's not big money gigs, but okay, it might be like $150. You might make like $50 on tips. Might even be more. I mean, I want to touch on this. I want to say, as musicians, I think we all got to get together and start charging a little bit more to increase the market. Like, because there's too many people who are like, yeah, I'll do it for $50. Mm-hmm. And so that trickles down in the long run.
Bottom, yeah.
You know, actually, I had the same conversation with the window cleaners. I'm not saying I changed the game, but like, I would always stay in contact, and I would say, you know, what are you charging? Not because I want to undercut you, but what are you charging? Because I want to make sure that we're all on the same page, so that we can make the most money for what we're doing. And
Right.
So I think, like, don't get me wrong. I mean, the $50 gig, if you're getting something out of it and you're having fun, wonderful. But like, you don't have to resign yourself to that just because you're a musician. And
Well, as you're finding, like, even nursing homes that don't have like huge budgets, you're finding ways to like raise your rates even with those.
Well, that's it. In the way you raise your rates with anything is you become more valuable. And so the way you become more valuable in like a nursing home is you're good with those old people, and you go in there and you shake their hand, you give them hugs, and you give them, you know, like I'll have a little trivia. Like, can you guess what movie this is from? They win a guitar pick from me.
Oh, that's cute.
And like, these old women are like, oh my God, this guy's awesome. And then, I mean, they're paying what, I don't know, like, you know, $5,000 a month to be there or
Ungodly
whatever.
amounts, yeah.
Yeah. So they have the budget. They do. You just have to become valuable, because a lot of those guys that show up there, and I'm not saying like I'm phenomenal. Like today, for instance, I was just tired today. I know I didn't put on my best show, but I did give it my best. And what I lacked in my performance, I just made up with, hey, how you doing? How you know, how's, you get to know them a little bit. Hey Louise, how's your kids? You know, and like, people are just like, oh my God, this is awesome. And just it seems so minute, but business is relationships. That's all it is. It's just relationships, and that's the long and short of it.
I think you're getting to something definitely as far as like being willing to have conversations about money and raising your rates goes, because we're about to move across the country. We're going back to Colorado, where we're from.
Yeah.
I'm sure restaurants in Colorado are used to paying like maybe $50, where restaurants out here are used to paying $200. And so we're gonna try to, like, you know, bring some of that with us, and kind of like, all right,
Yeah. And I have some thoughts on that.
all right, we're gonna like take a quick break here. Jack is headed to France. Say goodbye to Jack.
Bye.
Au revoir, Jack.
Well, we were talking about, you know, how we're moving back west, and just kind of like bringing some of that like East Coast money mentality back to a different situation, kind of like being a rising tide that lifts the boat of the indie music community in a different place. And you said you had some thoughts on that.
Yeah, I have some thoughts on that. So, where are you going to?
In Denver. So for the first couple months, we'll crash in Fort Collins, where we grew up, which is an hour north. But then we're all moving to Denver.
All right, so here's the deal. Here's the deal. Okay, so I don't know if you know this. I play in New York City all the time. I go there a lot. You know why I go there? Because there's a lot of money there. There's a lot of money in Boston too. There's a lot of money where I live. But like, people don't even question it in New York City because they're all so darn busy. Like, you just say, hey, it's just gonna be this, and they're like, okay, yeah, do it. All right, sounds good. And so, I mean, you're not very far from Aspen, which is one of the richest areas in the whole world that people have tons of events at. Denver's a big city, and so here's the deal. And like, this is how it goes. Is there's going to be people who want to spend money on live music, and there's going to be people who don't. And I guarantee you there's people out there that want to spend money on the live music. You just need to meet them. And here's the deal is, like, I think if you go into it with the mentality that This is it. This is the deal, because you're going to get that. Because more than anything, people want to be right, our humble selves included. And so what ends up happening is you end up somewhere in your mind sabotaging things. And I'm not saying you, but I'm saying like as people, because I've done this before, where I've moved somewhere and I'm like, it's not Cape Cod. There's not a billionaire living down the street from me, so they're not going to want to spend money on that. And then I'm like, wait a minute, but then there's like colleges who will spend all this money on like something dumb. Why don't I go to them? And I go to them, and it's like, whoa, I made X amount of dollars because I found the need of the people that are willing to spend the money on it. So Denver's a big city. People spend money. Aspen, you could probably, actually, speaking of, I know for a fact in Aspen that there's people like solo musicians who play like the bar there, and they'll make $1,000 on a night. I mean, would you drive 3.5 hours to go make $1,000 for a few hours? Yeah, you may not be super busy right in that little area, but you might be. And here's the other thing that I find, like with music, and this changed my mind on it, and this kind of gave me the guts to charge a little bit more for stuff that's kind of in the middle of nowhere, because I have this assumption it's middle of nowhere. They're not going to pay me to do this because it's like some hokey town, like out in the middle of like there's not even like there's barely a gas station there, barely a red light there, like to some of these gigs I go to. Until I went to DIY, I met this guy, super nice. Can't remember his name. I wish I could remember his name so I'd give him a little shout out. But he lives like Western Canada, middle of nowhere. Him and his wife go to gigs, and they charge, if I recall, I mean, it was like a couple of grand at least per gig for like a few hours, because it's just in the middle of nowhere, and it's for these like oil companies that want to keep their people happy. And that's the thing. Were you at DIY 2 years ago?
Yeah.
You were. I don't know if you remember that woman, another woman, I can't remember her name, but she was awesome. And the thing that she said that I always remember, she said, make them laugh, make them cry, make them sing along, and they'll open up your wallets.
Oh, yeah,
they'll open up their
100%,
wallets
yeah.
to you. And it's true. I mean, if you go in there with the intent of, yes, I want to make some money, and don't get me wrong, that's important, but it can't be everything. You have to serve to get paid. And when you go there, it's like a lot of these middle of nowhere places, no one's really willing to go there because they can't. Most people can't see past the, oh man, it's a 3-hour drive. Be willing to drive. Like, what do you care if you drive 3 hours, listen to an awesome book, or make your phone calls along the way, or whatever? A lot of people won't do that because they can't see past the, well, my mom and dad, they work at a job and it's right down the road and that's what they do. Like, okay, but your mom and dad aren't making $2,000 for a 2-hour gig.
So you decided about a year ago that you were going to call yourself a musician, and then you're going to be a musician.
Yes.
And then, all right, so here we are. Like we met almost a year ago.
Yeah.
And so
exactly.
We've been talking pretty consistently through this whole process, and so you're main thing, like you said, like the path of least resistance has been like to go down the road, play a gig, make some money, and so you're making a living, and seem to have really like tapped into something that works really well for you. So what's like next year? What are you hoping to scale up into?
Man, I would really like, my goal now is to like get an agent who can kind of just handle, some of the stuff that
like overall, colleges in particular, weddings, the whole thing.
The whole shebang, colleges, weddings, and actually, and same deal. I always say pick up the phone, call people who are doing what you want to do. And
that's our whole pretense for starting this podcast, actually, because I'm
It
not
is.
great with phone calls, but we
Yeah.
just like, hey, can
Or-
I talk to you about you're doing something that we're interested
or
in? So, like,
or emails or whatever it might be. And the cheapest way, I guess, if you want to, I think it was your brother was saying, where should you spend your money? Dude, take people out to breakfast, take people out to lunch, buy people beers. Don't take them to dinner. Dinner's expensive. Take them out to breakfast is usually the cheapest. And I've had like the privilege of taking some phenomenal musicians out to breakfast who are very successful, and a lot of them seem to say, yeah, if you could get, we have a few agents, like if you can get agents who are appropriate to what you're doing, that seems to be the consistent thought is like have people that are good at what they do. And like I love the DIY musician thing. I really do. It's awesome. Like I see you got Ari's book there. I love that book. Man, so comprehensive. I love what Cheryl does. Man, like those guys are phenomenal. I don't think I can keep up with them. I can't do all of those things anymore. Maybe when I was younger and I was a little more ambitious to bootstrap things, I could do it. But for me personally, where I am right now, I'm not saying I'll always feel that way, but like, you know, like I'll get this advice, like do this, and then you want to do that, and you want to blah, blah, blah. And the reality is like, yeah, I like doing that stuff, but I also like hanging out with my wife, and I like going to Europe, and I like, you know, petting my dogs and like watching Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Right. Things that are impossible to do if you were going to take all of Ari Herstand's advice to a T.
Exactly.
So but the power of delegating to an agent.
Exactly. Yeah. Kind of. And I'm sure he probably. I'm sure he. I mean, he's got a team. I'm sure he does. You know, like Ari's not dumb. You know. And I think his book's phenomenal because it's like everything that he's tried and done. And I mean, geez, like, you know, join his Facebook. I don't know if you're a part of his Facebook group. Like, join his Facebook group. He's got a lot of great advice, and he'll chime in, which is like so generous of him. But I think if like for me, and I'm not saying this is everyone, but for me to like bootstrap it and go through that book chapter by chapter and do it the way that, you know, it's lined up, like, maybe I'd be better off doing something else because I don't have the energy for that.
Right. Well, you're someone who knows yourself, so you got to know yourself. Yeah.
Exactly. But I think like the quickest way to places is like building a team, and that goes into like spending money.
Knowing how to delegate is something. Do you follow Rick Barker as well? I assume.
Yes.
After DIY musician, it's like something really interesting that like, you know, people who came from either business or from something like, you know, music adjacent are like much more comfortable with the concept of hiring and delegating and like really having internalized the concept of it takes money to make money, whereas musicians themselves like, well, yeah, but I can't do that. That's expensive. Yeah. Because they just like, you know, are like, you know, gripping the wheel so tightly that the thought of like, you know, paying money that they don't know if they're going to get back, not seeing it as a business is very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so you're comfortable with like, all right, I'm willing to hire someone to do this for me because I have faith that it'll be an investment and not an expense.
Totally. And it's not necessarily, it doesn't always cost money, because I am a firm believer in if you say it takes money to make money, it will take money to make money.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's true. What you say will be. Sounds simple and dumb, and maybe it sounds a little woo or like spiritual to someone, but
which
it's
is not how your personality strikes me. So coming from you is a pretty interesting thing to say. You're not like, you don't give off like a big hippie vibe or anything. So.
No. And I'm not. If you really want something, you'll figure out a way to get it. You just will. And so many people throughout the day, it's like, I want it so bad that means I'm going to get it. No, you're an idiot. Like, you're not going to get it. Like, because you don't get what it takes to really want something, if that makes sense. I don't know. I'm really going out on a limb here. I'm probably going to have a lot of hate mail. But, like, I think...
I mean, you know, what you're saying when you say, like, when you talk about people who, like, say what they want, but nothing happens, like... More the reality is like, all right, this is what you say you want, but you're not willing to be uncomfortable. Like, exactly. I want this thing within my realm of comfortability. Whereas someone who, like, as you say, if you really want something, it'll happen. Like, that asterisk is, and I'm willing to be uncomfortable and do things that aren't very fun to get there.
Exactly, because everything has a price. There's a lot of, if you're going to go on your own with things, and this is not in a discouraging way, it's going to be uncomfortable at times. But when you're uncomfortable and you see that it worked out, it like builds a little more faith. So you got to have like faith in things.
Right. That's probably one of my favorite things that I remember from Cheryl, that I, you know, internalize, do something every day that scares you.
Yeah.
Because like, you know, or like what, I forget the way she phrased it, like make a big ask.
Yes.
You know, like reach out to somebody who you think is like, you know, out of your reach, or make a request that you think is a total moonshot, and you'll start to realize, oh, these things are way more possible than...
Exactly. And usually, I mean, most people are pretty nice. And as long as you're nice when you do your ask, I mean, the worst case scenario is like people say no and you see it like it's not that bad, because it's not. I mean, it's not a big deal. Really. That's the other thing. Like, the only thing that's the end of the world is the end of the world. So, like, if you're a little uncomfortable, it'll pass.
And you like have been a songwriter as well, right? Do you
Yes.
write? All right.
Yeah,
good.
I write. I've gotten away from it a little bit. But yeah, I do write.
And so, do you have like have you been? But you haven't been writing as much. But you do have like a catalog of stuff. Is that like
Totally.
something that you also like aspire to? Is like getting original stuff out there?
Yeah, I think my long-term game would be, and again, I mean, I'm not dead set on it because I'm having so much fun now. My long-term game is to have fun while making a living.
Right.
So that's number one, and I'm doing that. So it's hard to be like, oh, I want to songwrite and da da da, but I'm not so attached to my stuff that like I'm gonna eat rice and beans. Like, I love filet mignon, I love lobster, I love traveling, I love staying at expensive hotels. I love having.
Yeah, you don't strike me as someone with like I am an artist. This is my message, and like I have to get it out there, sort of thing.
No, totally. And if someone's into that, man, I love it. Just as long as you're doing what you want to do, and that's what you want. Like, to me, I like having fun, and I like spending time. Like, my wife is awesome. I love spending time with my wife and just enjoying my life and having my things that I do. And you know.
I like that. So like, you've got a back catalog of songs, but you're not like so desperate to get them out there that.
Exactly. And I guess, like, I mean, something that I think would be pretty cool is like music licensing definitely interests me. And I had a guy help. I actually, a little bit of regret of mine. I had a guy who was so willing to help me, but I just wasn't ready. And I feel like I maybe blew him off a little bit. But like, because I just wasn't ready, and there's definitely, if I could say like an insecurity of mine is like, those are like my songs. And I'm like, it's really heart wrenching for me to put them out there. And so I think right now, and I'm being, saying, I don't know how many subscribers you have, so I'm putting it out there.
Growing.
It's
Modest.
Good. All right, good. Then I'll put it out there. Like I feel, pretty nervous to put those out there. So like, that's why, I mean, I have tremendous respect for, here I could talk a good game about business and stuff because I'm confident in it because I've done it and I love it. But as far as like, man, I got a lot of respect for some of these musicians who can put their stuff out there, be genuine about it.
For you, it seems like that's a comfort zone that you're not ready to leave. Like, like what ways that you're good at getting out of your comfort zone and ways that you've recognized that, all right, I'm not ready to get out of that comfort zone yet.
Yeah.
Well, and that's important for people to hear because like, yeah, you definitely do come across as hyper confident, but there is something to be said for like, all right, like I can play this Johnny Cash song, and if like someone likes Johnny Cash, they're probably going to like the way I play this Johnny Cash song, but there's something specifically terrifying about putting your own stuff out there because if someone doesn't like it, it means they don't like me, not that they don't like Johnny Cash.
Exactly. No, and that's like, even actually a lot of my old music, I haven't released it. In the last release I did, I think was 2004. So it's been like since then. I may have done like a limited release like here and there, but I haven't like actively released it because like a lot of music was like so personal to me. And I was finally like, I kind of like closed up a little bit. I was like, this is embarrassing because this is about this girl or, whatever, this situation. And so, no, it's definitely, I have a lot of respect when people can be genuinely vulnerable and like do it. And maybe one day I'll get there because I think I am getting there because as I get older, I really just don't really care anymore what people think. But I still do. I mean, if I'm honest, because there's that insecurity of like, okay, am I ready to release this? I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's something like I'll try to hold you accountable for. I'll push you out of that.
On record.
We'll push you out of that comfort zone.
I like it.
Yeah, I'd like
Okay.
to see an original Tim Perry in 2019.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, sounds good to me, man.
Right on. Anything else you want to like, kind of like, leave the people with?
Yes. Get the book. Don't even get How to Win Friends and Influence People. Get 92 Tips and Tricks, How to Talk to Anyone. Just get that book. That's it.
There you go.
Just
Nice.
and learn how to be good with people. If you want to put the odds in your favor, just get good with people.
Like that.
And when you have a little success with it, you'll see like, oh, this ain't so bad. It's actually pretty fun.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, and that to me is the joy in life. Is whether you like it or not, it's just part of being human.
Yeah.
When you connect with people, I seem like an outgoing guy. I love having time to myself. I'm alone most of the time, and I love it. But I really value also like connecting with people
Right,
and having
absolutely.
it and having some good times. I mean, because that's just part of being human.
Yeah, social
Take it or leave
animals
it.
we are.
Take it or leave it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway.
Where can people like find you and keep up with what you're doing?
Oh yeah. So just timperryrocks.com is my website, or you can find me on Facebook, Tim Perry Rocks. If anyone wants to reach out and has questions about window cleaning business, let me know.
I think that'll be like the number one biggest response. Is
Yeah.
So thanks for what you said about music, but
Yeah, but tell me about window cleaning.
yeah,
No, because it is super flexible and it's a
No
great
kidding,
job
yeah.
if you're a musician.
that's
So,
true. All right, man. Thanks so much for joining us. This is, as usual, a random, wide-ranging conversation with Tim Perry. So thanks for sitting down, man.
Yeah. Thanks, Dan. Thanks
Talk
for
to
having
you
me.
soon.
All right, man.
That's it for now. Thanks for listening. If you enjoy what you hear, please consider subscribing, rating, and leaving a review. If you want to learn more about what we're up to, you can go to thebartonbros.com and find us at The Barton Brothers on Instagram and Facebook. We will see you next time.